The Great Crusade's hidden purpose. A search hidden behind a conquest. History remembers the Great Crusade as the greatest military campaign ever undertaken. An age of conquest, an age of exploration, an age that reunited humanity. But beneath every victory, there was another mission, one known only to a handful of souls. When the Emperor launched the Great Crusade, his purpose seemed obvious. The age of strife had shattered mankind. Thousands of human worlds had survived in complete isolation. Some had fallen into barbarism. Others had become mighty civilizations in their own right. Many had forgotten terror entirely. The Emperor intended to change that. With fleets of warships, legions of space marines, and technologies unseen for millennia, the Imperium marched outward from the Sol system. Its banners carried a single message: humanity would stand united once more. World after world joined the Imperium, some willingly, others only after bitter war. To those watching from the outside, it appeared to be a campaign of reunification, and it was. But it was never the whole story. The Emperor never stopped looking. The Primarch project had not ended with a scattering, it had merely changed. The Emperor knew his sons had survived. He did not know where. Every compliant world became another clue. Every rumor was carefully recorded. Every impossible story was investigated. Reports arrived from every corner of the expanding Imperium. A giant who had united feuding kingdoms. A warrior who hunted monsters alone. A ruler whose wisdom transformed entire civilizations. A prophet followed by millions. Most Imperial commanders dismissed these tales as exaggerations, but after all, every world claimed to have its own legends. But the Emperor listened. He recognized patterns that no one else could see. Ordinary men do not conquer worlds before reaching adulthood. Ordinary men do not inspire absolute loyalty with a single speech. Ordinary men do not wrestle creatures the sizes of titans. These were not myths. These were his sons. The expedition fleets. The Great Crusade was one of the largest military undertakings in human history. Thousands of warships crossed the stars. Each expeditionary fleet carried soldiers, diplomats, engineers, explorers, remembrancers, mechanicum adepts, and countless support personnel. Every fleet had orders to reclaim lost human worlds, but many also carried another responsibility: to gather information, to record unusual events, to investigate extraordinary individuals. Whenever stories emerged of a ruler unlike any other, word was sent back through Imperial channels. Sometimes those reports reached Malkador, sometimes Constantine Baldor, and on the most important of occasions, they reached the Emperor himself. It was an intelligence network unlike any humanity had ever created, not simply reaching for enemies, but for families, more than generals. The Emperor did not seek his sons merely because they were powerful. He already possessed mighty armies. The Legion of Astartes had proven themselves across countless battlefields. The Custodian Guard stood unmatched. The armies of the Imperium grew stronger with every passing year. No, the Primarchs represented something far greater. They were the future of the Imperium. Each embodied a different aspect of humanity's potential. From leadership to wisdom, to strength, to innovation, to compassion, to courage, even vision. The Emperor had designed them not simply to win wars, but to build civilizations that would endure for thousands of years. Finding them was not a military objective, it was a necessity. Without them, his grand design would always remain incomplete. Father, or an emperor? As the search continued, another question lingered. One the Emperor himself may have quietly considered. How would his sons receive him? Would they see a father, or merely another ruler demanding obedience? Some Primarchs had grown up surrounded by love. Others had known betrayal. Some had become kings. Others had lived as slaves. Many had already earned the devotion of entire worlds. Would such men willingly kneel before another, or would they challenge him? The Emperor understood something many historians overlook. His sons were no longer children. They had become leaders in their own right. Each possessed immense pride. Each carried the scars of a lifetime lived without him. Reuniting the family would require more than revealing the truth. It would require trust. The weight of expectation. For the Primarchs, the Emperor existed only as an unknown presence. Most never knew they had been created. Few imagined they had brothers. None truly understood why they possessed abilities far beyond ordinary humanity. Many spent their childhoods wondering why they were different, why they grew so quickly, why disease rarely touched them, why battle came so naturally. When the Emperor finally appeared, he did not simply answer those questions. He transformed their entire understanding of themselves. Everything they believed about their past changed in a single conversation. Some embraced that revelation, others struggled to accept it, and a few never truly did. Legends become reality. As the years passed, the Emperor's confidence grew. One rumor led to another, one reunion led to the next. The impossible stories proved true. A noble ruler on Macragh, a wolf king on Fenris, an angel upon Baal, a giant among the volcanoes of Nocturne, a prophet on Colchis, a hunter in the forests of Caliban. Each world confirmed what the Emperor had already hoped for. His sons had survived, more than survived. They had become legends. The galaxy had raised them. Now, the Emperor intended to unite them. The first step towards destiny. History often remembers the Great Crusade for its battles, its victories, its expanding borders, its mighty fleets, yet beneath all of that, a father searched for his children. Every campaign brought him closer. Every new star chart revealed another possibility. Every world reclaimed offered another chance. The greatest conquest in human history was also the greatest search, and soon that search would bear its first extraordinary reward. On a world called Chthoniya, the Emperor would find the son who would stand beside him longer than any other, the son who would become his closest companion, the son who would one day carry the title War Master. His name was Horus Lupercal, and the destiny of the Imperium was about to change forever. The Great Crusade had many purposes: to reunite humanity, to destroy those who threatened mankind, to build an empire that would endure for eternity. But hidden beneath every triumph was a father's hope. The hope that somewhere beyond the stars his children were still alive. He could not know how each reunion would unfold. He could not know which sons would embrace him and which would forever question his intentions. He knew only one thing: the time had come, the search was ending, the family was about to be reunited. Horus, the first found, the son who walked beside the Emperor. Every journey has a beginning, every empire has a first victory, and every father remembers the first child he finds. Across the countless stars of the galaxy, the Emperor searched for 20 lost sons. He knew they had survived. He knew they had become great leaders. What he did not know was where fate had carried them. Then the search finally bore fruit. Upon the mining world of Chthoniya, the Emperor found Horus. It was the first great reunion of the Great Crusade, a moment that would shape the future of the Imperium, and unknowingly the beginning of the greatest tragedy in human history. Chthoniya, a world that forged survivors. Chthoniya was unlike many of the worlds reclaimed during the Great Crusade. Its riches had long since been exhausted. Generations of relentless mining had hollowed the planet from within. Great cavern cities stretched beneath its scarred surface. Entire populations lived in darkness. Resources were scarce. Violence was common. Power belonged to those strong enough to seize it, yet Chthoniya was not a world without honor. Its people respected courage, strength, and loyalty. A leader was expected to fight beside those he commanded, not hide behind walls. These values shaped the young Horus. From his earliest years, he possessed an extraordinary gift, not merely for battle, but for people. Where others demanded obedience, Horus inspired it. Where others ruled through fear, Horus earned respect. He possessed a natural charisma that no amount of training could create. Even before meeting the Emperor, he had become a leader others willingly followed. The Emperor arrives. No complete account survives describing the exact words spoken when the Emperor and Horus first met. Like so many defining moments in Imperial history, the details have faded into legend, but every source agrees on one truth: the Emperor recognized his son immediately. And Horus recognized something extraordinary in the Golden Warrior standing before him. There was no battle, no prolonged negotiation, no struggle for dominance. Instead, there was understanding. The Emperor revealed the truth: Horus was no ordinary man. He had been created for a purpose greater than any kingdom or single world. He was one of 20 Primarchs, a son of the master of mankind, a leader destined to unite humanity. For Horus, everything changed in a single moment. The mystery of his life finally had an answer. Why he had always been different, why no ordinary man could equal him, and why destiny itself seemed to follow his every step. The Emperor had not come to conquer him, he had come to bring him home. A son beside his father. Unlike many of his brothers, Horus did not simply join the Imperium, he remained beside the Emperor. For years, father and son campaigned together across the stars. This period would become one of the most important relationships in all of Warhammer history. Horus witnessed the Great Crusade from its earliest days. He observed how the Emperor negotiated with newly rediscovered human civilizations, how he planned campaigns, how he balanced diplomacy with overwhelming military power, how he inspired absolute loyalty amongst billions. The Emperor did not merely command Horus, he taught him. Every compliance became another lesson, every campaign another classroom. If the Primarchs were the Emperor's greatest creations, then Horus became his first apprentice. More than a general. The Emperor quickly realized Horus possessed gifts that extended far beyond warfare. Many Primarchs were brilliant strategists, some were unmatched warriors, others were visionary rulers. Horus possessed something different: he understood people. He could stand before a frightened population and inspire hope. He could settle disputes between rival commanders. He could win allies without drawing his sword. Even Space Marines, genetically engineered warriors created to know no fear, found themselves inspired simply by his presence. The Lunar Wolves, the legion that would become Horus's own, adored him. They did not follow because they were ordered to. They followed because they believed in him. That distinction would define Horus throughout the Great Crusade. The bond between father and son. The Emperor has often been described as distant, reserved, or difficult to understand. His responsibilities left little room for open displays of emotion. Yet Horus experienced something almost no other Primarch had ever received. Time. Years spent together. Conversations beyond the battlefield, shared victories and shared burdens. Horus came to know the Emperor not only as the ruler of mankind, but as his father. Likewise, the Emperor watched Horus mature into the leader he had always envisioned. Many historians debate whether Horus was truly the Emperor's favorite. The law never provides a definitive answer, but what cannot be denied is that Horus knew the Emperor better than any of his brothers, and the Emperor trusted Horus in ways he trusted no one else. That trust would one day become both the Imperium's greatest strength and its greatest vulnerability. The first among equals. As more Primarchs were discovered, Horus welcomed them as his brothers. He never claimed authority over them, not yet. Instead, he became the one who connected them. He laughed with Russ, debated with Dawn, admired Sanguinius. He respected Guilliman's brilliance. Even those whose personalities clashed, with others often found common ground with Horus. He possessed an extraordinary ability to unite people, an ability that made him indispensable during the Great Crusade. It's no coincidence that many Primarchs later accepted Horus as the War Master. Long before he held the title, he had already become its natural choice. The Emperor's greatest hope. Imagine the Emperor during these early years. The Great Crusade was succeeding beyond expectation. His armies expanded every year, humanity's lost worlds returned to the Imperium, and standing beside him was the first of his reclaimed sons. Everything seemed possible. Perhaps the scattering had not destroyed his dream after all. Perhaps his sons would become exactly what he had intended. If Horus was any indication, the future looked brighter than ever. The Emperor believed there would come a day when all 20 Primarchs would stand together, united, loyal, and brothers in purpose. He could not yet see the shadows gathering beyond the edge of that dream. The weight of expectations. There was, however, a burden Horus quietly accepted. Every new Primarch discovered would compare himself to the first. Every legion would look towards the Lunar Wolves. Every commander would measure Horus against the impossible standards set by the Emperor himself. The expectations placed upon him grew with every passing year. He bore them with confidence, with humility and determination. But even the strongest soul can bend beneath enough weight. The seeds of tragedy are rarely planted in failure. More often, they are planted in success. The Emperor had found his first son. The search had truly begun. Together, father and son marched across the stars. Each victory brought another reunion, another brother, another legion. The family grew. The Imperium expanded, hope spread across the galaxy. For Horus, these were the happiest years of his life. He stood beside the father he'd admired. He fought for a dream he believed would last forever. He could not know that history would remember him as something else entirely. Soon, the Emperor would find more of his lost sons. Kings, builders, warriors, angels. Each reunion would reveal a different face of the Emperor and a different heart beneath the armor of his children, because no two Primarchs would greet their father in the same way. Kings who welcomed their father, sons who chose to follow. Not every reunion was filled with doubt. Not every son questioned his father. Some had already become leaders the Emperor had dreamed they would be. When he finally found them, they did not see a conqueror, they saw the future. By the time the Great Crusade reached many of the Primarchs, the Emperor's reputation had spread across the galaxy. Stories travelled faster than fleets. They spoke of a golden warrior, a ruler who had reunited Terra, a conqueror who had commanded armies unlike any humanity had ever seen. To some worlds he was a liberator, to others a mystery. To his lost sons he would become something far more personal, a father. Yet no two Primarchs greeted him the same way. For some, this meeting felt almost inevitable, as though they had spent their entire lives preparing for that single moment. Roboute Guilliman. The statesman meets the Emperor. Macragge was already flourishing, its cities prosperous, its armies disciplined, its laws respected. At the center of it all stood Roboute Guilliman. Even before the Emperor arrived, Guilliman had transformed his adopted world into one of humanity's greatest civilizations. When news reached Macragge of an immense Imperial fleet entering the system, Guilliman did not prepare for war. He prepared for diplomacy. The meeting between father and son was one of mutual respect. The Emperor looked upon a ruler who had achieved exactly what he'd hoped the Primarchs would accomplish. Not endless conquest, but lasting civilization. Guilliman listened as the Emperor revealed the truth. The explanation answered questions he had carried since childhood. why he possessed abilities beyond ordinary men, why leadership had always seemed instinctive, why he had never truly belonged to Macragge alone. He accepted the truth calmly, not because it was easy to believe, but because the evidence stood before him. The Emperor offered him something greater than a single world, the chance to unite humanity itself. Gulliman accepted without hesitation, not out of blind loyalty, but because the dream matched his own. Rogal Dawn. Duty recognizes duty. The frozen world of Inwit had forged Rogal Dawn into a master of discipline. Honor was not merely admired, it was respected. Promises were sacred, responsibility outweighed personal ambition. By the time the Emperor arrived, Dawn already ruled not only Inwit, but a thriving stellar domain. Many rulers might have viewed the Emperor's arrival. Dawn did not. He recognized something familiar, a leader carrying an impossible burden. Their meeting has often been described as quiet, professional, almost solemn. Few grand speeches were needed. Dawn understood immediately. If humanity was ever to survive, it required unity. His fleets, his armies, his experience, everything he possessed. From that day forward, duty to the Emperor became inseparable from duty itself. It was a promise Dawn would uphold until the very end. Vulcan, a father finds a son. If Gulliman represented wisdom and Dawn represented discipline, Vulcan represented humanity. When the Emperor arrived upon Nocturne, he found not merely a mighty warrior, but a beloved protector. The people of Nocturne did not fear Vulcan, they loved him. He walked among blacksmiths, shared meals with ordinary families, worked beside craftsmen despite possessing strength beyond imagination. He never believed greatness separated him from the common people. It obligated him to protect them. The Emperor saw this immediately. Of all the Primarchs, Vulcan embodied one of the ideals he valued most: compassion. Their reunion was warm, respectful. There was little need to convince Vulcan. He already believed the strong existed to defend the weak. The Imperium simply gave him a greater family to protect. Even after joining the Great Crusade, Vulcan never abandoned the traditions of Nocturne. He returned whenever he could. He remembered every lesson his adoptive father had taught him. For Vulcan, the Emperor expanded this purpose. He never replaced it. Sanguinius, the Angel of Baal. Among all the Emperor's reunions, perhaps none carried greater emotion than the meeting upon Baal. The people of Baal already regarded Sanguinius as something miraculous. His white wings, his wisdom, his compassion. To many he seemed an angel descended from the heavens, yet Sanguinius himself never sought worship. He understood suffering. He had watched his people endure radiation, mutation, scarcity, and the endless hardship. Those experiences gave him remarkable empathy. When the Emperor finally stood before him, Sanguinius did not see a rival, nor did he see a god. He saw the father he had never known. The Emperor in turn saw a son whose nobility exceeded even his greatest hopes. The bond between them formed almost immediately. Many accounts suggest the Emperor held immense affection for Sanguinius, and Sanguinius returned that respect without reservation. Among all the Primarchs, he would become not only one of the greatest generals of the Great Crusade, but its moral heart. Where others inspired fear, Sanguinius inspired hope. 4 different paths: Gulliman, Dawn, Vulcan, Sanguinius. 4 Primarchs, 4 very different worlds. Yet each shared something remarkable. They had grown into the men the Emperor had hoped they would become: leaders before conquerors, builders before destroyers, protectors before warriors. Their worlds had strength and virtues already placed within them. The Emperor could not have asked for more. Every reunion reinforced his belief that the Primarch project had survived, perhaps against all odds. His dream remained intact. A family begins to form. As these sons joined the Great Crusade, something extraordinary began to happen. The Primarchs were no longer isolated rulers, they became brothers. Guilliman admired Dawn's unwavering discipline. Dawn respected Guilliman's brilliance in governance. Vulcan's kindness earned admiration throughout the legions. Sanguinius seemed able to bring calm wherever tensions arose. The family was beginning to take shape. The Emperor watched with cautious optimism. This was exactly what he'd imagined beneath the Himalayas on Terra, his sons standing together, different in personality but united in purpose. For a brief moment, the future appeared brighter than ever. Not every reunion would be so easy. Yet not every Primarch viewed the Emperor with immediate trust. Some had lived lives that taught caution before faith. Others questioned everything they were told. Some demanded proof. Others challenged the Emperor's vision itself. They would still join the Imperium, but their loyalty would be earned, not freely given. Those meetings would be more complicated, more cautious, and in some cases, the seeds of future conflict would be planted from the very first conversation. The Emperor had reclaimed kings, builders, protectors, sons who willingly embraced his dream. Every reunion strengthened the Imperium. Every Primarch brought another legion into the fold, another world, another people, another future. The Great Crusade gathered unstoppable momentum. But beyond these hopeful reunions, other sons waited. The Lion, Jagatai, Magnus, Fulgrim, each brilliant, each proud, each determined to judge the Emperor by his actions rather than his words. The next reunions would not be defined by emotion, they would be defined by understanding. Because before any son could truly follow his father, he first had to decide whether the Emperor was worthy of his loyalty. Sons who question their father. Loyalty must be earned. Not every son welcomed the Emperor with open arms. Some had already become masters of their own destiny. Some demanded answers, others demanded proof. These were not men who would kneel simply because they were told to. If they were to follow the Emperor, he would first have to earn their respect. By the time the Great Crusade reached these Primarchs, each had already forged an identity that could not easily be changed. They had survived impossible worlds, built kingdoms, won wars, mastered arts and sciences beyond ordinary comprehension. They were no longer children searching for a father, they were rulers. Each believed he understood what humanity needed. When the Emperor arrived, they did not reject him, but neither did they surrender their trust without question. For these sons, respect had to be earned. Lionel Johnson, the hunter of Caliban. Caliban was a world of endless forests. Ancient beasts stalked his shadowed wilderness. Entire knightly orders dedicated their lives to hunting monsters that ordinary men could never hope to defeat. Among those monsters, one stood above them all, a silent child. Found wandering alone in the deep forest, he had survived where no human should have lived. The knights named him Lionel Johnson. From childhood, the lion earned one lesson above all others: trust no one completely. The forest of Caliban rewarded caution. Every shadow concealed danger, every stranger could become an enemy. Even after joining the Order, the lion remained reserved, watching, listening, and learning. When the Emperor finally arrived, the lion studied him just as he studied every potential ally. He did not question the Emperor's strength. That much was obvious. He questioned his intentions. Could any man truly unite humanity? Could any ruler bear such responsibility? The Emperor answered not with grand promises, but with purpose. He spoke of rebuilding civilization, ending humanity's long isolation, destroying the horrors that threatened mankind. The lion recognized something familiar: duty, not ambition. That was enough. He accepted the Emperor's hand not because he was convinced immediately, but because he believed the vision deserved a chance. Throughout his life, the lion would remain fiercely loyal. Yet always, a part of him continued to question. It was simply his nature. Jagatai Khan, freedom above all. The winds of Chagoris never stood still, nor did its greatest son. Jagatai Khan grew amongst the tribes that valued freedom above everything else. To them, a ruler existed to serve the people, never to own them. The Khan united his world, not through tyranny but through respect. He defeated rival warlords, then welcomed them as allies. His empire was built upon choice, not fear. When the Emperor's fleet descended from the heavens, many expected another conqueror. The Khan remained calm. He listened, questioned, and he challenged. Was this Imperium merely another empire demanding obedience? Or was there something greater? The Emperor explained his dream. A galaxy united not for personal glory but for humanity's survival. Khan remained unconvinced at first. Freedom mattered deeply to him. He feared centralized power. He feared stagnation. He feared rulers who forgot the people they served. Yet he also recognized the dangers beyond human worlds. Orcs, Xenos empires, the warp. Humanity divided would never survive. After long discussions, the Khan chose to join the Great Crusade, not because he loved empires, but because he believed the one offered humanity's greatest chance to survive. Even then, he never surrenders his independent spirit. He would remain one of the Emperor's most loyal sons, precisely because he never stopped thinking for himself. Magnus the Red, a meeting of minds. Long before meeting the Emperor, Magnus had already become one of the greatest scholars in the galaxy. The libraries of Prospero held knowledge gathered over countless generations. Magnus devoured it all. The history, the science, the philosophy, and most of all the warp. He believed knowledge itself was sacred. Every mystery existed to be solved. Every question deserved an answer. When the Emperor arrived, Magnus felt something extraordinary. For perhaps the first time in his life, he stood before somebody whose intellect rivaled his own. Their first conversations reportedly lasted hours, yet some say days. They spoke not only of war but of science, psychic mastery, the ancient histories of humanity, and also the hidden dangers of the warp. Magnus was captivated. At last, someone understood the questions that consumed his life. The Emperor recognized Magnus's astonishing potential. He encouraged learning, but also warned of restraint. The warp was a tool, not a master. Its dangers were greater than Magnus yet understood. Magnus accepted the warning, but quietly believed he could master risks that others feared. It was not arrogance born of malice, it was confidence born of genius, a confidence that history would one day test with terrible consequences. Fulgrim, the pursuit of perfection. Chemos had nearly died before Fulgrim arrived. Resources were scarce, industry barely survived. Every citizen carried the burden of rebuilding their world. Fulgrim embraced that burden. He demanded excellence for himself, his followers, and from everyone around him. Under his leadership, Chemos flourished once more. Factories expanded, cities grew, culture returned. Perfection became not merely a goal, but a philosophy. When the Emperor reached Chemos, Fulgrim greeted him with admiration, but also curiosity. Could his father truly embody perfection, or was he simply just another powerful ruler? The Emperor never claimed perfection, he claimed purpose. Humanity could become something greater, but only together. Fulgrim admired that vision, yet his own standards remained impossibly high. He wished not merely to succeed, he wished to become flawless, to create flawless warriors, flawless civilizations, and flawless achievements. The Emperor recognized both the brilliance and the danger within that ambition, because perfection is a goal no mortal can truly reach. 4 different questions. The Lion asked, "Can I trust you?" The Khan asked, "Will humanity remain free?" Magnus asked, "How much knowledge should be pursued?" Fulgrim asked, "How perfect can humanity become?" None rejected the Emperor, each joined the crusade willingly. But each carried a question that never fully disappeared. Questions become beliefs, beliefs become convictions, and convictions can shape the fate of civilization. The Emperor's Challenge. With every new reunion, the Emperor learned something new about his sons. Some needed guidance, some needed purpose, some simply needed to be heard. He understood that leadership was not merely about issuing commands, it was about understanding those who followed. For a time he succeeded. His sons marched beside him. The Imperium expanded, the Great Crusade gathered unstoppable momentum. Yet beneath those victories, a small difference remained. Different philosophies, different properties, different visions for humanity's future. The Emperor believed they could coexist. History would prove that unity is far more fragile than conquest. The Emperor had claimed scholars, hunters, nomads, and craftsmen, each brilliant, each loyal in his own way, yet none surrendered his individuality. The family continued to grow, the dream continued to flourish, but beyond the borders of the Imperium, other reunions still waited. Meetings that would not end in quiet understanding. Some sons carried wounds so deep that even finding their father could not heal them. One had spent his life beneath the rule of monsters. One had only known chains. One had witnessed humanity at its absolute worst. One believed his greatest talents had never truly been appreciated. These sons would welcome the Emperor, not with hope, but with pain, and their scars would never truly fade. Sons who carried old wounds, scars that even a father could not heal. Some sons welcomed the Emperor with hope, others welcomed him with caution, but a few welcomed him carrying wounds so deep that no reunion could ever truly heal them. The Primarchs were created to be the greatest leaders humanity had ever known, but they were also shaped by the worlds that had raised them. Some worlds nurtured wisdom, some taught discipline, others taught compassion. But there were worlds that taught only one lesson: survive no matter the cost. The Emperor could give these sons purpose. He could offer them a place in his grand design, yet he could not erase the decades of suffering. And it was those scars, not their incredible strength, that would define much of their future. Mortarion, the son who hated tyrants. The world of Barbarous was poisoned, its valleys were barely survivable. Its mountain peaks belonged to monstrous overlords who ruled humanity through fear. Mortarion was raised by one of those creatures, the Xenos warlord, known only as Nekar. From childhood, Mortarion learned cruelty, not kindness. Nekar taught strength through suffering. Mercy was weakness, compassion was failure. But Mortarion rejected those lessons. Instead, he descended into the toxic valleys, living amongst ordinary humans, fighting beside them, teaching them to resist. Over many years, he forged an army from frightened villagers. Together, they overthrew one overlord after another. Only one remained, Nekar. Mortarion climbed the poisonous mountain alone, determined to kill the monster who had ruled his life. But the toxic air became too much, his body failed. Just as victory seemed within reach, the Emperor appeared. With impossible power, he destroyed Nekar himself. Humanity was freed. But Mortarion did not celebrate. The victory he had spent his entire life pursuing had been taken from him. He had wanted to prove humanity could defeat its own monsters. Instead, his father had done it for him. To many observers, the Emperor had saved his son. To Mortarion, the Emperor had stolen his destiny. A seed of resentment was planted that day, one that would continue growing for decades. Angron, the slave who never forgave. No reunion in Imperial history is more tragic than that of Angron. His world, Nasseria, a place of wealth, culture, and unimaginable cruelty. Angron was captured almost immediately after his arrival and sold into slavery. Forced to fight in the gladiatorial arenas for the amusement of powerful nobles, His captors implanted the butcher's nails into his mind, a horrific device that rewarded violence and punished peace. Constant pain became his existence. The only moments of relief came during combat. Despite endless suffering, Angron found something precious: brotherhood. To his fellow gladiators, they became his family. Together they escaped. Together they fought freedom. Together they prepared for one final battle against impossible odds. They knew they would die, but they would also know freedom. Then the Emperor arrived. Many expected him to descend into the battle and fight by his son's side. Instead, he did something Angron never forgave. The Emperor teleported Angron away from the battlefield. His gladiatorial family, his brothers, his sisters were left behind. Every one of them was slaughtered. Yet Angron survived. But survival felt like betrayal. The Emperor had saved his life, yet destroyed everything that he truly loved. From that moment onward, Angron followed the Imperium, but he never truly followed the Emperor, not as a son, only as a weapon. Konrad Curze, the child of endless night. No Primarch endured a childhood quite like Konrad Curze. There were no adoptive parents, there were no teachers, there were no loving family, only the endless darkness of Nostromo. Curze survived entirely alone. He learned morality not through guidance but through observation, watching humanity at its worst. Murder, corruption, greed, cruelty. He came to believe fear was the only force capable of stopping evil. As he grew, he became judge, jury, and executioner. Criminals vanished into the night, their bodies displayed as warnings. Crime disappeared. Not because people became better, because they became terrified. When the Emperor finally found Curze, he discovered a son unlike any other. Brilliant, intelligent, utterly broken. Curze accepted the Emperor's authority, yet deep inside he questioned everything. Could humanity truly become better? Or were people simply monsters waiting for the chance to prove it? Those doubts never left him. Neither did the terrifying visions that haunted his every waking moment. Curze foresaw death, betrayal, civil war. He desperately wished someone would tell him those visions were false, yet no one ever did. Perturabo, the genius who needed recognition. Olympia had given Perturabo every opportunity to demonstrate his brilliance. He mastered engineering, agriculture, mathematics, military science. He could solve problems that baffled entire civilizations, yet praise always seemed to belong to someone else. Every achievement became another expectation, never enough, never complete. When the Emperor finally arrived, Perturabo felt genuine admiration. At last someone existed who might truly understand him, someone whose intellect rivaled his own. He willingly joined the Great Crusade, believing he would help build humanity's future. But as the years passed, Perturabo found himself assigned the hardest campaigns, endless sieges, grinding wars, fortress after fortress. Again and again, his victories became expected, rarely celebrated. While other Primarchs earned glory, Perturabo earned responsibility. His bitterness did not appear overnight, it accumulated slowly. Like cracks spreading through stone, the Emperor had gained a brilliant son, but perhaps he never realized how desperately that son wished to be appreciated. 4 different scars. Mortarion believed the Emperor had denied him his greatest victory. Angron believed the Emperor had abandoned the only family he had ever known. Curze believed humanity could never escape into its own darkness. Perturabo believed nothing he accomplished would ever be enough. Each wound was different, each carried its own burden, but together they revealed a painful truth. Primarchs were not flawless creations. They were deeply human, capable of greatness, capable of love, and capable of carrying pain for an entire lifetime. The Emperor's greatest blind spot. The Emperor understood war, he understood politics. He understood science beyond anything humanity had ever achieved. But did he truly understand his sons? He saw extraordinary generals, builders of empires, masters of strategy, yet beneath their legendary abilities they remained individuals shaped by loss. Some historians argue the Emperor expected too much, that he believed his sons would simply set aside the lives that they had lived before he arrived. Others believed he had no choice. The Great Crusade could not wait. The galaxy would not wait. Whatever the truth, time was something the Emperor never seemed to have enough of, and time was exactly what many of his sons needed. Family united but not whole. As more Primarchs joined the Imperium, the Emperor's family appeared more complete. To the citizens of the Imperium, the Primarchs were demigods, perfect heroes, symbols of humanity and symbols of unity. Only the Primarchs themselves knew differently. Behind every victory, some carried doubt, some carried grief, and some carried anger. Some carried the wounds that would never fully heal. They stood together, but not all of them stood at peace. The Emperor had reclaimed warriors from every corner of the galaxy, kings, scholars, builders, hunters, prophets, slaves. Every son fought his own strengths. Every son carried his own scars. Yet despite everything, the Primarchs were finally together. For the first time since the scattering, they would be not only as distant legends, but as brothers. Some friendships would last forever. Some rivalries would shape history. Some bonds would become stronger than blood, and others would begin breaking from the very first handshake. Because even the greatest family in human history was still a family. Brothers at last, a family forged in war. For decades, each Primarch believed he was alone, a giant amongst ordinary men, a ruler unlike any other. Then one by one, they discovered the truth. They had never been alone. They had brothers. Imagine the scene: the greatest warriors humanity had ever produced, gathered together for the very first time. 20 Primarchs, 20 worlds, 20 vastly different lives. Some had ruled empires, others had led rebellion. Some had known love, others had known only suffering. Each believed his own path had been unique, yet standing before one another, they saw reflections of themselves. Not identical, but unmistakably family. Towering figures whose presence filled every hall they entered, voices that could command armies, minds capable of reshaping civilizations. For the first time since the scattering, the Emperor's dream appeared complete. His sons were together. Horus, the brother everyone knew. Among all the Primarchs, one stood apart, not because he claimed authority, but because many already trusted him. Horus had spent years campaigning beside the Emperor. He had welcomed many of his brothers personally as they joined the Great Crusade. He knew their strengths, their personalities, their ambitions. He had shared victories with them long before they all stood in that same room. To many Primarchs, Horus became the brother who made the family feel whole. He could laugh with Lehman over a feast, spend hours discussing strategy with Dawn, debating philosophy with Magnus, admire Gulliman's talent for governance, trade jokes with Vulcan. Even more reserved Primarchs found Horus easy to respect. He possessed an extraordinary gift. He made others feel valued. It was a quality no gene-forged enhancement could explain, yet it would later make him the natural choice for the War Master. Fulgrim and Ferrus Manus, the brothers forged in steel. Few friendships were stronger than that of Fulgrim and Ferrus Manus. At first glance, they seemed complete opposites. Fulgrim pursued perfection, every weapon, every work of art. Every campaign had to be flawless. Ferrus valued strength, endurance, results. They admired one another immensely. Each recognized greatness in the other. Legend tells of the two Primarchs competing to forge the perfect weapons. Neither wished to lose. Neither accepted mediocrity. When the contest ended, they exchanged their finest creations as gifts. It was a gesture of profound respect, a symbol of trust between brothers. That friendship would become one of the greatest casualties of the Horus Heresy, but for now, they were inseparable. Rogel Dawn and Roboute Guilliman, builders of empires. If any two Primarchs understood responsibility, it was Dawn and Guilliman. Both believed civilization mattered more than personal glory. Both saw conquest as only the beginning. Worlds had to be governed, protected, strengthened. Their conversations often centered on logistics, infrastructure, law, and defense. Others joked that listening to them discuss fortress construction could last for days, yet behind those discussions lay mutual admiration. Guilliman respected Dawn's unwavering discipline. Dawn admired Guilliman's remarkable vision for administration. Together, they represented stability. If the Imperium were ever to endure for 10,000 years, it would require minds like theirs. Sanguinius, the heart of the family. Among all the Primarchs, few were as universally admired as Sanguinius, his grace, his humility, his compassion. Even those who disagreed with him rarely disliked him. Where rivalries threatened to grow, Sanguinius often restored peace. Where tempers flared, his calm presence brought reason. He possessed none of Horus's effortless charisma, nor Guilliman's administrative genius, nor the Lion's relentless focus. Instead, he reminded his brothers of what they fought to protect: humanity. Many Primarchs privately considered Sanguinius the finest among them. Even those who would later stand on opposite sides of the Horus Heresy remembered him with affection. His goodness seemed almost impossible to resent. The Lion and Leman Russ. Respect hidden behind rivalry. Not every relationship began as a friendship. The Lion and Leman Russ respected strength, but they expressed that respect very differently. The Lion was reserved, measured, a hunter who preferred silence to celebration. Russ was loud, boisterous, a warrior who embraced laughter as readily as battle. Their personalities clashed almost immediately. Competitions became arguments, arguments occasionally became fights. Yet beneath every disagreement, there remained respect. Each recognized the other as one of the Imperium's greatest warriors. Neither would ever admit it openly, but both knew they would rather fight beside the other than against him. Magnus and Perturabo, minds beyond their time. Magnus sought knowledge, Perturabo sought understanding. Though their interests differed, both possessed astonishing intellects. When they met, conversations often stretched deep into the night. Mathematics, agriculture, architecture, engineering, astronomy, the mysteries of the universe, they challenged one another constantly. Neither accepted easy answers. Unlike many of their brothers, they viewed war almost as mathematical problems, something to be solved. For a time, their friendship flourished. It was built not upon emotion, but on curiosity. The brothers who never truly belonged. Not every Primarch found his place within the family. Angron remained distant. He had little interest in politics, little patience for ceremony. The butcher's nails allowed him a few moments of peace. Mortarion respected only those who endured hardship. Kurz rarely trusted anyone. Even while surrounded by brothers, he often stood alone. Perturabo quietly believed others received praise that he deserved. These were not open conflicts, not yet. Most disagreements remained hidden beneath discipline and duty, but resentment has a habit of growing in silence. The Emperor's greatest success. Looking across the United Suns, the Emperor had every reason to feel pride. The Primarchs commanded the greatest military force the galaxy had ever witnessed. Each legion reflected the strengths of its father. The Ultramarines built civilizations. The Imperial Fist fortified worlds. The Blood Angels inspired hope. The Space Wolves became fearless hunters. The Dark Angels carried out impossible missions. Together they seemed unstoppable. Perhaps for the first time since the Primarchs were stolen from Terra, the Emperor allowed himself to believe the future was secure. His family was together, his dream was alive. Humanity's golden age had truly begun. Small cracks. Yet families are complicated. No matter how extraordinary they become, beneath every celebration, tiny fractures always existed. Fulgrim constantly pushed himself beyond reason. Perturabo quietly envied the recognitions others received. The Lion trusted very few. Russ challenged authority whenever he believed it necessary. Magnus believed knowledge should never be feared. Lorgar searched for spiritual meaning the Emperor refused to acknowledge. Most dismissed these differences as personality. No one imagined they might one day divide the Imperium itself. History rarely announces the beginning of tragedy. It whispers in small moments, small disagreements, small misunderstandings, until one day they are too large to ignore. For a brief shining moment, the Emperor's family stood united. Brothers fought beside brothers. Worlds were reclaimed, civilizations rebuilt. Humanity looked to the stars with hope once more. He was everything the Emperor had worked toward, everything he had sacrificed to achieve. Yet even as victory followed victory, the foundations of the future were quietly shifting, because every brother carried his own beliefs, his own ambitions, his own scars. Soon those differences would shape the destiny of the Imperium. The Great Crusade was reaching its height. The Emperor's sons stood ready to conquer the galaxy. No force appeared capable of stopping them. Not the Orcs, not the ancient Xenos empires, not even the horrors of the warp. The greatest danger was already standing among them, waiting patiently for the moment everything would begin to fall apart. The Emperor's greatest triumph, the golden age of the Great Crusade. There are moments in history when victory seems absolute, when the future appears certain, when an empire believes nothing can stop it. For the Imperium, this was that moment. By the middle years of the Great Crusade, the Emperor's dream was becoming reality. His lost sons had been found. The Space Marine legions marched beneath the banners of their Primarchs. The fleets of the Imperium crossed the galaxy in numbers never before imagined. Thousands of worlds have returned to the rule of terror. Entire civilizations had endured thousands of years in isolation and now stood united once more. To those living through these years, it felt as though humanity had entered a new golden age. The darkness of old night was finally ending. The future belonged to mankind. 20 legions, one unstoppable war machine. Never before had the galaxy witnessed such military power. Each Primarch commanded his own legion of Space Marines. Each legion reflected the character of its father. The Dark Angels struck with discipline and precision. The Space Wolves became hunters feared across the stars. The Imperial Fists built defenses that could withstand impossible odds. The Blood Angels inspired allies simply through their presence. The Ultramarines brought order wherever they marched. The Salamanders protected civilians even in the midst of war. The Iron Warriors shattered fortress after fortress. The White Scars struck with unmatched speed. The Death Guard endured battles that would have destroyed lesser armies. Together, they became an unstoppable force. When several legions fought side by side, entire star systems fell within weeks. Even ancient empires that had ruled for centuries found themselves overwhelmed. The Imperium expanded at an astonishing pace. More than conquerors, the Great Crusade was never intended to be endless warfare. Once the world joined the Imperium, another mission began. Cities were rebuilt, trade routes reopened, ancient technologies recovered, schools established, infrastructure repaired. The Emperor envisioned an Imperium where war would one day become unnecessary. The Primarchs reflected this vision in different ways. Guilliman created thriving governments. Vulcan helped rebuild shattered communities. Dawn designed mighty fortresses to protect future generations. Fulgrim restored culture and industry. Even those known primarily as warriors understood that victory meant little if civilization did not follow. The Imperium was not merely conquering worlds, it was rebuilding humanity itself. The Imperial Truth. At the heart of the Emperor's vision stood a powerful philosophy, the Imperial Truth. It rejected superstition, religion, it rejected fear of the unknown. Instead, it embraced reason, science, knowledge, and human achievement. The Emperor believed humanity had suffered for thousands of years because of ignorance. Faith had divided civilizations. Superstition had allowed the warp to manipulate entire worlds. The imperial truth promised something different, a future where mankind relied upon understanding rather than myth. Many Primarchs embraced this ideal. Guilliman, Dawn, Perturabo, Magnus, at least initially. Others accepted it without fully believing it. One son would eventually reject it completely. His name was Lorgar, and the consequences would echo across 10,000 years. The Emperor steps back. As the Great Crusade continued, something unexpected began to happen. The Emperor no longer needed to command every campaign personally. His sons had become extraordinary leaders. Each could conquer entire sectors without his direct guidance. For the first time, the Emperor began turning his attention elsewhere, toward secret projects, toward terror, toward plans that only a handful of individuals truly understood. To many, it seemed a natural progression. The Primarchs had matured and the Imperium was thriving. Surely the Emperor had earned the opportunity to focus upon humanity's future. But not everyone viewed his withdrawal the same way. Some wondered why he had become more distant. Others questioned why he'd revealed so little of his intentions. Those unanswered questions would grow louder with time. The cracks beneath the surface. To the wider Imperium, everything appeared perfect, but beneath the celebration, small fractures remained. Lorgar continued searching for spiritual meaning. Magnus believed the warp could be mastered through knowledge. Perturabo quietly watched others receive the glory he longed for. Mortarion never forgot Barbarous. Angron still dreamed of the gladiators left behind on Assyria. Kurz's visions became darker. Fulgrim demanded perfection from himself and everyone around him. None of these problems seemed capable of threatening the Imperium. They appeared to be private struggles, personal burdens. Yet history has shown again and again that civilization rarely collapses because of a single catastrophic event. They're weakened through countless unseen fractures. A father's pride. Imagine the Emperor looking upon his sons during these years. Horus stood beside him. Guilliman governed prosperous realms. Sanguinius inspired entire sectors. The Lion crushed humanity's greatest enemies. Russ hunted threats beyond imperial borders. Magnus expanded the limits of human knowledge. Vulcan protected the innocent. Dawn fortified the Imperium. His dream had survived. Against all impossible odds, the Primarch project had succeeded, or so it seemed. Perhaps this was the closest the Emperor ever came to believing he had truly won. Perhaps this was the happiest period of his long existence, because what came next would cost him everything. The shadow no one saw. The Imperium believed its greatest enemies waited beyond the frontier. The Orcs, the Eldari, the Rangdan, countless Xenos civilizations. But another enemy had been watching from the beginning. Patient, ancient, invisible. It was the warp. Its powers had already scattered the Primarchs. Now they watched as the Emperor's greatest achievement had reached its peak. And they began searching for weakness, not within the Imperium, but within the Emperor's family. Because even demigods possess doubts, even heroes carry regrets, even the strongest hearts can be tempted. History remembers this as the height of the Great Crusade. Humanity had never been stronger. The Emperor stood at the head of a united Imperium. His sons commanded the greatest armies ever assembled. Hope spread from one end of the galaxy to the other. The future seemed certain. Victory seemed inevitable. The dream appeared unbreakable, but history is often cruel. Its brightest chapters are often only the calm before the storm. Because while the Emperor celebrated the triumph of his life's work, he was preparing to leave the front lines. Someone would have to lead the Great Crusade in his absence. Someone would carry the hopes of the Imperium. Someone trusted above all others. The choice seemed obvious. His first son, his closest companion, the greatest general, Horus Lupercal. And with that single decision, the fate of the galaxy would begin to change forever. A new age begins, the dawn before the storm. The search was over. The Emperor had found his sons. The Great Crusade was winning. Humanity stood united once more. It should have been the beginning of an age of peace. Instead, it was the beginning of the end. There are moments in history when everything appears to have fallen perfectly into place. The Emperor had reclaimed his lost sons. The legions stood united beneath their Primarchs. The Imperium stretched across thousands of worlds. Every year brought new victories, new discoveries, new hope. To the countless citizens who looked towards Terra, the future had never seemed brighter. For the first time in thousands of years, humanity believed it had escaped the darkness. Old night was over. A new age had begun. The Emperor's dream. From the moment he revealed himself on Terra, the Emperor had pursued a single goal. Not conquest for its own sake, not for glory, not for worship. He sought the survival of mankind. He dreamed of an Imperium where humanity ruled the stars without fear, a civilization guided by reason instead of superstition, knowledge instead of ignorance, unity instead of endless war. Every battle fought during the Great Crusade, every alliance forged, every sacrifice made, served that vision. Now, standing beside his sons, the dream appeared closer than ever before. 20 brothers. Across the Imperium, the Primarchs had become living legends. Children dreamed of becoming space marines. Worlds celebrated the arrival of the expeditionary fleets. Poets wrote of Sanguinius, builders admired Dawn, scholars quoted Magnus, warriors sought to emulate Russ, statesmen studied Gulliman, smiths honoured Vulcan. To every Primarch inspired humanity in a different way. Together they represented everything the Imperium hoped to become. Few realized they were witnessing the greatest gathering of heroes in human history. Never again would all the Emperor's sons stand together in unity. The Emperor's decision. As the Great Crusade reached its height, the Emperor made a choice that surprised many of his followers. He would no longer lead every campaign personally. Instead, he would return to Terra. To most commanders, the decision made perfect sense. The Imperium had grown too large for one man to oversee every battle. His sons were more than capable of continuing the crusade, but very few knew the real reason. Deep beneath the Imperial Palace, the Emperor had begun work on a project of unimaginable importance, a project so secret that only Malcador the Sigillite, Constantine Valdor, and a handful of trusted servants understood its true purpose, the Imperial Webway Project. If successful, it would free humanity from the dependence of warp travel. No more dangerous warp routes, no more reliance on navigators, no more exposing humanity to the horrors lurking within the Imperium. It was perhaps the Emperor's greatest undertaking, one that he believed would secure mankind's future forever. To complete it, he needed time, and he needed someone he trusted completely to continue the Great Crusade in his absence. The son he trusted most. Among all the Primarchs, one name stood above the rest, Horus Lupercal, the first son found. The one who had fought beside the Emperor for years, the brother respected by nearly every legion, the commander whose victories inspired absolute confidence. To many, the choice seemed obvious. No one doubted Horus's ability, no one questioned his loyalty. No one imagined another Primarch better suited to unite legions. The Emperor saw not only a brilliant general, but the son who best understood his vision. It was the greatest honour any Primarch could receive, and the greatest burden. Though the formal title of War Master would come later, the path toward that destiny had already begun. The Emperor was placing more and more responsibility upon Horus's shoulders, preparing him for a role unlike any other. Hope across the galaxy. As the Emperor departed for Terra, the Great Crusade did not slow, it accelerated. The Primarchs expanded into regions untouched by Imperial authority. Entire sectors were reclaimed, ancient human civilizations returned to the Imperium. The dream continued to grow. Across the galaxy there was a celebration, there was a confidence, there was a belief. The Imperium had become a dominant power in the galaxy, its enemies seemed to be retreating. Its future appeared limitless. No one could imagine how quickly that future would change. The gods were watching. But beyond the veil of reality, other eyes watched. The warp had never stopped watching. The Chaos Gods had witnessed the Emperor's rise, they had seen his armies grow. They had watched him reclaim his sons, and they understood something the Imperium did not. The Emperor's greatest strength was also his greatest weakness, his family. 20 ordinary sons, 20 extraordinary souls, each carrying hopes, dreams, pride, fear, and regret. Every one of them could be influenced, could be manipulated, could be broken. The battle for humanity would not be won through armies alone. It would be fought within the hearts and minds. And the first move was already being made. The end of innocence. Looking back across 10,000 years, historians often ask a single question: when did the Horus heresy truly begin? Was it upon Darwin, when Horus was wounded? Was it on Monarchia, when Lorgar's faith was shattered? Was it when the Emperor returned to Terra? Or did it begin much earlier, in the quiet moments no one recognized as important? Perhaps. The heresy began the moment the Emperor believed the hardest part of his work was over. Perhaps it began when his sons stopped needing their father's guidance. Or perhaps it began long before any of them were born. Whatever the answer, the age of unquestioned hope was ending, slowly, silently, and almost invisibly. The Emperor had found his sons, the Imperium had risen from the ashes of old night. The Great Crusade seemed unstoppable. For one brief, glorious moment, everything the Emperor had sacrificed to achieve appeared within reach. His dream lived, his family stood together, his enemies retreated into the darkness. But history remembers this moment, not because it marked humanity's greatest triumph, but because it came just before its greatest tragedy. The father had found his sons. Now he would trust them with the future of mankind. One son would become War Master. Another would question the imperial truth. Another would seek forbidden knowledge. And another would carry bitterness into silence. And beyond the veil, the ruinous powers waited, patient, eternal, and watching. The golden age of the Imperium had begun. Its fall had already been set in motion. The next episode, Episode 5, The Emperor returns to Terra. Horus rises to command the Great Crusade, the Primarchs conquer the galaxy, but beneath every victory, the seeds of the Horus heresy begin to grow. The greatest war in humanity is closer than anyone realizes.